recognize myself again to ask a dear friend, de facto mentor, and former chairman, Mr. Womack, a quick question. But I wanted to just highlight one thing. Folks, we have something good going on here right now. We've got one of the senior members of our side on the Republican side saying we don't need this. We have members from the Democrat side saying we do need this. This is good. This is healthy. And I think the point of a catalyst, because we've watched it play out, we are in a different situation than we were in '83. We are in a different situation. And the question, Mr. Womack, two questions. Mandatory spending now is representing over 70% of our budget. That wasn't the case 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's a fundamentally different scenario that we're in now. This is not post-World War II when we could just reduce defense spending and all of a sudden get our debt to GDP back on track. So just share some context with the change in where we are now. And then a question that I did not have prepared for you. I was going to talk about interest rates and stuff, but we've kind of covered that. Give me your sense for where the Republican conference is on this right now. I've seen a lot of discussions on a potential of a debt commission, knowing it's not going to be, a perfect, pristine bill that's going to be tough for everybody. Like, give me your sense. Do you feel something similar? Do you think that there's an urgency and a willingness to engage in this? And I'll defer to you.
Thanks for the question. Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber, when asked why he robbed banks, said, because that's where the money is. And we, as I said in my opening, we spend an enormous amount of time and spend a lot of political capital talking about the discretionary budget. Chairman, presiding, Mr. Moore, you are correct. If you go back to 1965, discretionary spending was clearly the largest piece of the federal budget. 65-ish%, give or take. And then now here in 2023, it's completely flipped. It's 70+% on mandatory. So that should illustrate to everyone that has just basic fifth grade arithmetic that if you're going to fix a $2 trillion deficit, and indeed quit digging this hole deeper, you can't do it on discretionary spending. You can barely scratch the surface. The discretionary budget that we are debating right now is in that $1.5 trillion range, and we know that the deficit this year is going to be upwards of $2 trillion. We know that net interest on the debt is going to be north of $650 billion. So we are going to have to muster the courage to be able to deal with it. Now, your question about where Republicans stand on it, let me just cover both sides of the aisle. One side of the aisle would like to take the option off the table of any cuts or any reforms. Let me push back against that. Not necessarily any reforms, but they don't any reform that is proposed. And when I did my FY19 budget, not in this room, but in this committee, that balanced in a 9-year window, remember the one thing that we did that never made it to the floor, but made it into our budget. We just tried to do something really simple, and that is equalize the age of Medicare eligibility with Social Security. Move the retirement age from 65, the qualification age, 65 to 67. You would have thought I canceled a day of the week. So my argument is, if you can't do something like that, then what, pray tell, can you do to fix the bigger problem? And then when you look to my friends in my caucus, when you start talking about any additional revenues, well, that's hands off. That's why when Senator Conrad said, and I totally agree. And look, I know when this is over and it's published, that the next ad against me is going to be, yeah, this guy wants to raise your taxes. No, what I'm simply saying is when you're this deep in the hole, you better consider every available option on the table, or else you're never going to fix the problem. And that's why it's going to require the courage of the American people. It's why I said that we have to make our constituents subject matter experts, because I believe in my heart this, that if our constituents knew across the spectrum of this great country that this was the near-term biggest national security and economic challenge facing our country, they would step up to the plate and say, I will do my part. That's what Americans do. I will do my part. But they don't trust this Congress because we always have some way around it. We always have an exit ramp. We always have some other way of deferring the challenge. So again, Chairman Moore, I would tell you that if we can educate our constituents and make them subject matter experts, whether it's a commission or a fiscal State of the Union or any other mechanism, then I think we would be on the road to solving the problem and being able to take the heat that the members will fade away, whether it's restructuring or whether it's revenues or any other available option. Sorry to belabor the point.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to add that every town hall you come to for me in my district, there's a 5 or 6 slide presentation that we do. It's my former consultant coming out, where I really do try to educate and make people understand why we're in the situation that we are, and I just avoid rhetoric and just tell people the facts. And when I do, they actually appreciate it. So I'm trying to do my part, 30 to 40 person town halls at a time.